use a wheelchair as a vehicle to challenge how people see anybody that's different. So the wheelchair is okay, it's about accessibility, but it's about helping people to see things differently. So I do stand-up comedy, often in a wheelchair, so I'm pushed up. So I've carried the wheelchair often up 2 flights of stairs in order to get into a venue, because they're not accessible. So then I go and do the comedy, and then halfway through my set, I'm open about the fact I don't need it, and it's for comfort. And people have that little shock moment of like seeing somebody disabled, or so they see. They see me as this disabled woman, and then they see a funny woman, hopefully, because I make people laugh, and then that I don't need it. So one person at a time, I'm kind of changing, or maybe a few people at a time see how they see the world.
Wow.
So that's what I'm doing.
Well, so how do people need to start seeing people on wheelchair? We're talking about comedy right now. We're not talking about any other areas of saying, okay, because this person's on a wheelchair for a different reason. We're just focused so viewers can understand where we're coming from. It's not like we're just talking about, wheelchair people. But this is for comedy, you know? Because the reason for this is that people have different talent, you know, and your talent could unify you based on either by car, either by bike, wheelchair. And you want to talk to people when you're doing comedy. And when you're standing doing your own comedy, you connect more. But when you're sitting on the wheelchair, there could be a little bit difference there. So why would people start thinking in such a way, well, okay, I can laugh a little bit, or they don't feel like, okay, if this person is standing,
well, it's interesting, because often I would be pushed up. If I'm pushed up, often I'd be pushed up in silence, whereas other comedians would get applause. There's this shock. They see the wheelchair, they don't see the person. So the reason I started ever doing the comedy stuff in a wheelchair was because my mother actually wanted to go to see a film, and I needed a wheelchair. She was 90 at the time. It was to see a film called Philomena. And the wheelchair got her there. She asked for popcorn and a drink, and then they asked me, and I was pushing her, they asked me, does she want it in 2 separate cups, or can she manage? And my mother said, no, I've ordered it, why aren't you speaking to me? And that's the point. It's about how people are treated, or how it impacts people, just to see this. Now, this is really useful because it's a physical thing. You can see the wheelchair. But the wheelchair could represent any difference. It can represent depression or anxiety, anything that makes somebody excluded. And often people are excluded because they're not able to get upstairs, but they may be because they have anxiety or depression, or they may have a whole load of other things that are going on for them. And we treat people differently because they don't fit into our social norms.